Do you know Dorothy Height?
No.
Do you know Dorothy Height?
No.
Hey, do you know Dorothy Height?
No.
Have either of you heard of Dorothy Height?
No.
Hey Bubs, do you know Dorothy Height?
That last video was because he's a cute cat. Hi, my name is Chantal Van Tress, and I was just where my family and my friends were on knowledge about Dorothy Height. Today, I'm going to explain the successes that this woman has brought to the civil rights movement and her fight for gender equality. Let's get started on why we should not forget Dorothy Height.
The source I used was a memoir written by Dorothy Height herself, named Open Wide the Freedom Gates. Now let's jump into Dorothy's background. Her full name is Dorothy Irene Height. She was also given the nickname of the godmother of the civil rights movement. She was born March 24th, 1912 in Richmond, Virginia, and then moved and grew up in Rankin, Pennsylvania. Dorothy did pass away in April 20th, 2010 in Washington, D.C. Her mother is Fanny Burroughs Height, and her father is James Height.
Her mother worked as a nurse in Richmond, and then when they moved to Rankin, she had to be a housekeeper because no hospital would hire a colored nurse. After a while with building a rapport with many people, she ended up nursing at people's houses. Her mother's impact on Dorothy was when she was helping her in the Pennsylvania Federation of Colored Women's Club. She built her appreciation for Black women and what they have achieved. Her father, James Height, was a building contractor, and he was also a deacon at their church, the Emmanuel Baptist Church. The impact of her father was her dedication and love for her religion. Also, when many people were migrating from the south to the north, he offered small jobs for colored men. This made Dorothy see the importance of lifting other people up.
The next clip is Dorothy recalling an event that she was impacted by that she goes into detail in Chapter 2, Keeping the Faith.
Well, when she came out, I noticed that she was tearing a little bit. And she said, well, they will not let us stay here. And I said, why? And they said, because they didn't know that you were colored.
In the first couple chapters, Dorothy recalled a few instances that prejudice got the best of her. Growing up in Rankin, Dorothy states that races were pretty intermingled. However, her first instance with prejudice was with her childhood best friend. One day when they were walking home from school, Sarah Hay, which was her best friend, said that she could not play with Dorothy anymore because she was an N-word. And that stuck with Dorothy for a very long time. Another instance was when she was denied access to the swimming pool at the YWCA in downtown Pittsburgh. She was part of a girls' reserve club for that organization, and she was even photographed to be a poster girl with 2 other white girls. But she was still denied access to the pool. And in Chapter 2, page 22, her and another girl named Dolly wrote the school alma mater for their high school. At every assembly, Dorothy would lead the school in song as Dolly would play the piano. When a new principal came to town, he was shocked that 2 colored girls were leading the assembly in the school alma mater and told Dorothy that she could no longer sing in the assembly. When the next assembly happened and Mr. Schrader was trying to get the school to sing along without Dorothy, no one stood and no one sang. It was only until he called Dorothy up to the stand that the whole school, which was 90% white at the time, stood and sang with Dorothy in the song. Isn't that amazing? I got chills whenever I read that. Dorothy's love for speaking and social work started at a young age, but would later grow to help her reach multitudes of people. In her youth, she started with helping kids at her church remember their lines in their plays. At the Rankin Center, she read Bible stories to kindergartners, which would later land her a job at the Brownsville Center because the person that hired her remembered seeing her read to those kids. And what I found really interesting, how she got college fully paid for, because she won a contest called the Elks Contest.
Here's a quick story on how Dorothy chose her college.
So originally, Dorothy actually applied at Barnard University. She made it to the dean's office, but the dean told her that they had already filled the 2 colored spots that they could fill in their university. Down and out, Dorothy didn't want to go home empty-handed. Her cousin convinced her to go to NYU and talk to the dean there. Dorothy had not applied to NYU, but she went and told the dean that she would like to apply, and the dean asked her for the application. Of course, Dorothy didn't have it, but she gave her her high school transcripts, and the dean said, let me pull it out, and I quote, "A girl that makes these kinds of grades doesn't need an application to enroll to NYU." And that started her college experience.
Here are a few of the accomplishments that Dorothy achieved after college. Being one of the 10 representatives for the United States for the Greater New York Federation of Churches, part of the United Youth Committee against lynching, and protested each time a sign was put up that said, "A man was lynched today." Dorothy's first involvement in the civil rights movement was part of the Coordinating Committee for Employment, eventually getting 125th Street in New York City to hire more colored people to work on that street.
Here's a couple pictures of Dorothy with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On page 83, chapter 6, she became a friend with Eleanor Roosevelt and the creator of the National Council of Negro Women, Miss Mary Bethune. After meeting Dorothy, Bethune appointed her to the Resolutions Committee of that council. Dorothy later on stayed a president of the National Council of Negro Women for 40 years of her life and helped eliminate injustice for women. In addition, Dr. Height worked with Miss Roosevelt personally to build content for peace at the World Conference. In 1961, John F. Kennedy appointed Dorothy to the President's Commission to discuss roles that women can lead, from politically to economically and even at home. Dorothy's tenacity and dedication for the civil rights movement and the women's rights movement started at a very young age and only grew stronger as the years went on. At her memorial service, previous President Barack Obama made a speech celebrating all of Dorothy's accomplishments. I'm going to attach a clip right here on that speech.
Well, Dr. Dorothy Height deserves a place in this pantheon. She too deserves a place in our history books. She too deserves a place of honor in America's memory. Look at her body of work: desegregating the YWCA, laying the groundwork for integration on Wednesdays in Mississippi, lending pigs to poor farmers as a sustainable source of income, strategizing with civil rights leaders, holding her own, the only woman in the room, Queen Esther, to this Moses generation, even as she led the National Council of Negro Women with vision and energy, vision and class.
I want to end this video on a quote by Dorothy. She says, "I want to be remembered as someone who used herself and anything she could touch to work for justice and freedom. I want to be remembered as one who tried." Dorothy Height played a huge part in America's evolution on basic human rights. And like Obama says, she deserves a place in our history books along with the others. I hope whoever watches this learned a little bit about Miss Height in this video. And with everything that I stated, all the facts and all the stories, this is why we should not forget Dr. Dorothy Irene Height. Thank you for watching this presentation. Citations at the end. Thanks.